Welcome to ACM Classes CAT 2025 LRDI Slot 3 Puzzle 1. This puzzle was inspired from DI data interpretation. Let's go ahead and start solving it. Actually, this was gonna be a long one, and in the exam it was suggested not to attempt it in the beginning straight away. It's gonna take time. Okay, so just pay attention towards it. Now the puzzle says in beginning that there are three countries, Pumpland, P, Xiland, X, and Cheeseland, C. They are trading among themselves with the other countries in the rest of the world. All trade volumes are given in IC, that is international currency. They are saying the following terminology is used: trade balance is equal to exports minus imports, total trade is exports plus imports, normalized trade balance divided by total trade expressed in percentage terms. That means we can multiply it by 100 and we can find out the percentage. Now, the following information is known: the normalized trade balance of P, X, and C are 0%, 10%, minus 20% respectively. Now, what does this mean? We're going to solve this one by one. So, this is going to give us a good insight of the puzzle. So, first of all, they say there are three countries. So, let's first of all take them. There is one country, that is P, which has a 0% of normalized trade balance. That means its imports and exports, they both are equal. If I put export here and if I put import here, I can take both of them as X, because then only I can say that is E minus I, that is equal to 0, and divide upon anything you take, the answer gonna be 0 itself. So this is done. When they say for X it is 10%, when they say X is equal to 10%, that means the exports minus import divide by export plus import multiplied by 100, that is equal to 10. So we can just cancel this 10, 0 here, and we get 10E minus 10I, that is equal to E plus I. So we can say this is 9 of E, that is equal to 11 of I, and that means E upon I, that is going to be 11 upon 9. So we can write 11Y for X and 9Y for the imports of country X. The same way we can find out for Z also, because for Z they said that's gonna be minus 20%. So this 10 plus 10 we can write minus 20. So this will get cancelled here and this will also get cancelled. So I'm gonna get the values as 5E minus 5I, and that is going to be minus, has to be multiplied with E plus I. So we're gonna get minus E and minus I. Now when we bring them toward the left side, right hand side, we're gonna get 5E plus 1 I, that is 6I, and minus 5 goes to the right hand side, we're gonna get 4I. Then E by I will become 4 upon 6, which is actually 2 by 3. So this is 4 upon 6, table of 2, that is 2 by 3. So for the Z we can write 2 is to 3. Let's just make some space for it. So for Z, which is minus 20%, so the exports is going to be 2Z, let's say, and this is going to be 3 of Z. So this is the information that we get from the first point here. Now let's go towards the second point. The second point says 40% of exports of X are to P and 22% of imports of P are from X. Now we have to understand that export of X to P, that is actually import for P from X. So that means this value and the first part of the second point, this value should be equal. So we already have that in the terms of X and Y. So let's try to solve this. If we can get a relation and we can just eliminate one of the variables. So 40% of export of X, when we say 40% of export is 11Y, 11Y multiplied by 40 by 100, 4 by 100, that means 11 into 4, 44 by 10, that is 4.4 of Y, that is equal to 22% of imports from X. So imports from X that we have, imports of P that we have, that is X, So 22% of that, that means that is equal to 0.22x. 22 by 100 multiplied by x. Now this we can solve, that is y upon x, that is equal to 22 upon 100, and this I can write 4.4, that is 44 by 10. This gets sold out, so that is 1 upon 20. That means x is equal to 20y. So this information gonna help us here. We can replace these x here and we can put them 20y. So these values now become 20y. So we have eliminated x till now. So that is a good move, I'll say. This calculation gonna rub. The next part of this puzzle that it says the 90% of export of C are to P. Now 90% of exports of C, 90% of C, okay, this company, okay, this is Z, not Z, this is C. Let's just change that. Okay. Now 90% of exports of C are to P, that means 1.8 Z is to P and 4% to ROW. The rest 6% will be to the either to the other country. So 12% of export, this we cannot make right now. I'm not making it because I'm gonna get to 1.8 Z and then 0.08 and then 0.12. We'll do it later on. First of all, I'm just gonna derive all the information on one page, maximum information which I can write here. 12% of exports of ROW are to X, 40% are to P. So we did not write rest of world till now. So let's say we have not been given with the trade balance, normalized trade balance. So let's take this as S and let's take this as T. S and T. S is the total export and T is the total import. Now this is given to us. The import value of P in IC to X and C are 600 and 1200 respectively. P is the only country that export to C. Now the numbers have been given to me. So this I can now try to find out the value of Y or Z, whatever I'm going to get. And they also said P is the only country that exports to C. That means that this complete import of C, that is from the country P. And that is given to us from country P to C we get 1200. That means this 3Z, that is equal to 1200. That means Z is equal to 400. That means I can get the values for 2Z and 3Z. So this should be 800 2Z and this should be 3Z, that is 1200. So this information is done from here. Now there are certain information which we have not used yet. So we'll use them later on. Till now we have used these two information, first and second, and we have used this information also. Let's look at the first question first of all. How much is exported from C to X? Now from C to X, how much was exported? Now from C to X, so total export of C, that is 800, and 90% of export of C are to P, 4% to ROW, and the rest is 6% which is left, because a total 100% one country can export, that 90% goes to P. We're talking about C, we're talking about 1200 right now, 4% to ROW, the rest 6% that will go to X. Now that is the question. We have 6% of 1200. Sorry, export we are talking about, not this 1200. We're talking about 800 because we're talking about exports, not imports. So this is the exports we are talking about, 800. So 6%, that is 6 upon 100 of 800, that is 6 into 8, 48. So that should be the answer to my first question here. So this is the answer we have. Now let's look at the next question. The next question is how much is exported from P to ROW? Now P to ROW, how much is being exported? Let's check where is the P's total export is going. Now P's total export is 20Y. So P is sending 600 to X, 1200 to C, and the remaining will be going to R, which we have to find out. That means we need to find out the value of Y so we can find out the value of R. Now how to find out the value of Y? Let's see that. Now there's a kind of table which we need to understand now. Now this was the export of P. What else we have? Y, 11Y and 9Y we have here, 20Y and 20Y we have here. The information which we have used, this information has been used in the first question. Now this information has not been used yet. This information also have been used now. So let's club every information. Now we have to make some equations so we can solve out the puzzle. Let's make a table. Another information that we can use to find out for 20Y, if we see how many of them are importing to, because this is about the export of P, how much the export volume of P, but import volume is also same, that is 20Y. So if we talk about how much is importing to P, let's see that if we can find out the value from there. 40% of exports of X are to P. So 40% of exports of X, that is 4.4Y, plus who else is exporting to P? C and R. 40% of ROW are to P. Now ROW, that is rest of the world, 40% of export, that is S, that is 0.4 S, and who is left? C is left. C, here is C. 6%, sorry, 90% of export of C are to P. So 90% of C export, that means 820 into 90 by 100 is 720 we get. So that is 720. So there's one equation which we get here, that is 15.6Y minus 0.4 S, that is equal to 720. This is the first equation we get. Any other equation which we may make, like we made from export, we made from import. Let's see if we have all the export for X and or all the import of X. Now P export volume to X we know, so X ka import that we can have from here. So 12% of export to X, that also we can find out. Okay, that is good enough. I believe that we can start with. Now let's talk about this import of X. Now how much is X importing? X is importing total 9Y, and from 9Y, P is giving it, the export volume of P to X is 600. Then from C, 6%, that is we just find out 48, and from the rest of the world 12%, that means 0.12 S. So we got another information here, I believe. So we get 9Y, the next equation we get, minus 0.12 S, and that is equal to 648. Now I believe we can solve this equation. We can multiply the equation 1 by 3. So we're gonna get 15. This will be get 0. This is 0.12, and then we can divide 0.3 also, actually not 0.3. We can multiply it, but 0.3, and then we can find out the values for the, because we can make both of them equal if I multiply the first equation by 0.3, 3 by 100 I mean, 3 by 10 I mean, sorry, 0.3, that means 3 by 10. So we're gonna get 3, 10, 3, 2, 1, 5, 6, that is 468, 4.68 y minus 0.12s, that is equal to 10 gets cancelled, we get 216. So this equation converted to this. Now if we just subtract them, we get, this is 5, not 5, 4.32 y, that is equal to 432, that means y is equal to 100. So we get the information about y here. So we got the information of y, that means this y. Now we can replace the values everywhere. I hope the calculations are clear. You guys can have a look at it again. We just tried to find out the value of y because we needed to know that how much was export is going to ROW. For that we need to find out the value r. For r we needed to find out the value of y, and for y we have, there are 4 places where we had y, 20y, 20y, 11y, 9y. So we have already used this 20y, we got in 2 variables. If this 20y when we used, we got the equation, this import is coming from P, from X, C and R, so we wrote their values from the data. And then from this, another thing which we had in the data, the imports given which are coming to X, they are total 9y and they were coming from P, X and R. So that also we took here, and then we multiplied the first equation by 3 and then we sorted out. It's basically linear equation in 2 variables, that what we used. The y value comes out to be 100, that means here I can find out the value. So this is actually 2000. So that means r is going to be 200. You guys can have a look at the calculations meanwhile. So this is should be the answer, and I'm going to replace the values here also because we got the value of y. So this is 20y, 20y. So this is 2000. This is also 2000. Also for x we can write down, this is 11y it was, that is 1100, and this is 900 we can write. Now let's go to the next answer. So the answer to this question is 200, that we just find out. Question number 3, how much is exported from ROW to ROW? Very catchy question it was. How much was exported from ROW to ROW? Because if we see the calculations carefully, we got 12% of export of ROW to X and 40% to P. He can't do further to C because P is the only country that exports to C. So there's nothing which we have which he gonna export to any other country. That means the rest, 12 plus 40, 52, the rest is 48% they are exporting to themselves, right? So 48% of ROW, they are so 40% of their export, that is they are importing also. So let's find out the values. Now from S or T also we can, S or T, S I can find out easily. The total export we can find out, because if you put the value of in any equation here, let's put the value of 15.6y in this equation, let's put the value, let me rub all the other things. So let's use this in equation 1, 15.6y, that is 1560 minus 0.4s, that is equal to 720. That means 0.4s, that is equal to 840. That means S is going to be 2100. So this S we can find out, that is 2100. Now as the question we said 48% of 2100, let's find out the answer. %48 of 2100, that is 48 into 1 8, 4 remainder, 48 into 96 and 4 100, so that means the answer gonna be 1008. That is the answer we have here. Now let's look at the last question which we had. What is the trade balance of ROW? So that we have to find out T also. Now to find out the T, now we can use the simple basic things like the information which we have given to be how much is being imported by R. So first of all we know that this T we have to find out. So this actually how much is P exporting to R, let's find it out first of all. 40, 22%, 90%, okay, first of all here 90% of export of C, 4% of export of C. So 4% of export of C, that means 4% of 800, that is 32, that is being imported to R, plus export value of P to X and C was this. To R we already calculated, that was 200 to rest of the world, which we calculated from this equation in all these calculation, plus so we got the import from P to ROW, we got the import from C to ROW. From X, how much is the, here it is, 40% of export of XR to P, that means 60% is going to be to R, because C is not gonna receive any other import. So this gonna be 60%, because 40% is given to us, rest is not given, so rest is 60%. It can't deliver to C, so rest is to R. So 60% of 1100 is 660 plus 1008, it is exporting to itself. So the total comes out to be, this is 1040, 1700, 1900. The total comes out to be 1900. So the difference between both of them, that is 200. The trade balance, export minus import, that comes out to be 200. That is the answer here. The last question, I believe. Which among the countries P, X and C have the least total trade? That means we have to add export plus import, the total trade. So for P it is 2000 plus 2000, 4000, 2000 for X, 2000 for C, and this is 4000. X and C, they both have the minimum, that is 2000 each. So both X and C, that is the answer. That is it in this puzzle. So I believe you guys understood the puzzle well. You guys may look at the puzzle very carefully, because this is one of the typical DI puzzle that took a lot of time in CAT this year, and this was a particular puzzle that made CAT slot 3 tough also a bit. Anybody who was stuck into this puzzle, they have spent a lot of time, and of course it was a lot of time was gone into it. So this puzzle was not suggested to do in the beginning. This puzzle was suggested to do towards the end, if you have the time and you don't know any other puzzle in the CAT. I hope you guys understood liked it, and you guys gonna definitely comment, like, and subscribe us so we can keep coming up with the more videos. Thank you so much. Take care.